welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I am co-host Nessa. Today, we have a lot to go over.
A lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Should we start off with PWHL stuff?
Yeah, so that was an experience.
I feel like the draft happened a year ago already.
Yeah, I can't believe it was just like the other day. And it just feels like so long ago that, I mean, now the teams are mostly put together. I thought it was an exciting time for all the players that, you know, who were draft. And I mean, hopefully it was a good experience for folks that didn't end up getting draft. Like the fact that it was the first draft of this, of this kind. I mean, we're used to seeing all like the men's side and like all of that stuff, but what about the women?
Yeah, it's historic and it was fun. I didn't get to watch the whole thing though, so you're gonna have to fill me in on some things. I feel like the few names that I knew were not drafted. Most of them were signed free agency or they're still waiting to be signed.
Who was signed during free agency that you know? You mean the first three that were? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant after the draft. Okay.
No, before the draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that came out, like speculation of why that might be. So I guess we'll kind of see in like the coming weeks. I mean, we knew going into this why one of the big reasons why folks were upset when the news of a new women's league was going to be formed and the PHF was going to be bought out, that all these players that had teams, had some kind of salary or signed like a big contract, suddenly don't have anywhere to play. Two of the ones I think we were talking about was Grant Mentis and Tinker.
Tinker and Madison Packer.
Her as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to be like 1,000% excited because of how this all came about, but I did have a good time still watching the players get to go up there and take pictures and get drafted. And I forgot who it was. It was like a European player. I think she was drafted in like the second or third round, and I was like mostly listening to it because it was during the day and I was at work. But she started getting choked up and I was just like, you need to stop because I don't need to be crying at work right now. Like I don't need to be randomly sobbing in my queue. But she was emotional about it. And those are like the moments that I'm taking and being happy about during this process. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is really exciting for women's hockey in general. But I'm going to come in here and be a negative Nancy right now. Because I did see somewhere, because like I said, I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw somewhere that only about a handful of players who were drafted were women of color. And someone was even explaining how there is so many options and none of them were really picked. And I think there might have been like 7 players or something, and like 6 of them were Indigenous women, which is cool to see, but it's also a little disappointing.
Right. During the draft, I was reminded that we're still waiting for their trans inclusion policy. And while we're waiting on it, that bothers me because if, let's say they put together a good one that allows for, trans women, non-binary people to play in the league. Well, if they were ready to go, like, I'd imagine you're maybe not putting your name in the hat to get drafted because you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to play. So
Yeah.
I've been meaning to say that for like the last couple episodes, but we've talked about some other stuff and then I forget about it. But yeah, during the draft, I was like, it popped up again. So it was like hanging out. It's like, nope, I'm still a valid opinion, ready for you to put out on the podcast. So yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about, I guess, the colors maybe kind of being like official now?
I'm cool with them. I mean, some of them aren't surprising at all. Some of them don't make a whole lot of sense, but they kind of do. Like, okay, so I'm gonna list, if any of you haven't seen, I'm gonna list them all. So Toronto's gonna be light blue, which makes sense. The Maple Leafs are blue. Ottawa's gonna be red. That makes sense to me. Montreal's gonna be maroon/red, which also makes sense to me because that's what the Force was. Minnesota's gonna be purple, which does not make sense to me. But then if you think about it, the Vikings are purple.
Yeah. I saw someone make
Okay,
a reference to that.
Maybe that does kind of make sense. I like purple, so I wouldn't mind following Minnesota just for the color. And then New York's going to be teal/green, and you know how I feel about that. So that one, they have the New York Liberty that has about the same colorway. I think theirs is a little bit lighter though. So I'm keeping a close eye on Minnesota, New York right now. And then Boston's green. I saw someone complaining that green isn't a Boston color. Like, sorry, how do you say the basketball team?
Celtics?
Celtics or Celtics?
Celtics.
I always forget. Celtics, okay. So they were complaining, it's like, even the basketball team, it doesn't make sense. Like, why choose green? So they're not super thrilled about that, but I mean, it makes sense. So I guess they all kind of make sense in their own way. I know that you were leaning more towards, who was it, New York for players, and it just happens that they're going to be teal, so you're like, you lucked out there.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards New York and Minnesota. I think New York's got a bit of a leg up on Minnesota just because of Abby Rock, but the fact that Minnesota has Kendall and I mean, yeah, Boston has Hillary, but I cannot root for
Can't
Boston.
root for Boston. Yeah, there's something about Toronto and Boston. I will say I don't care for Toronto teams, but just because there are no nurses on that team, I'll probably follow.
I will root for
I don't
Nurse.
know.
And
There's
that's
no
about
loyalties.
it.
There's no loyalties here. I will follow all of them.
So JT
Yeah.
Compher was seen at
Yeah.
the draft to support his sister Jessie Compher. So love that
Which is
for the
super cute.
Comphers. Love that she gets to play for Toronto. I was
I'm so
thinking
bad at
Minnesota,
this.
but that's the other person that's on our list to talk about.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yeah, so super cute. Comfort has always been very vocal and supportive about his sister. As well as when Nico Sturm, okay, when Elena came to visit, she told me how to properly say his last name, so I'm gonna attempt. It's Storm. I probably butchered that. Storm. His girlfriend at the time, I think they're engaged now,
I think they're married
also
now.
played in.
Because he
they married?
said recently that he just got married.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So maybe she was his fiance at the time. Anyways, she used to play for PHF or NWSL. I don't know what it was called when she was playing. And when he was on the Avs, he was also very vocal about supporting whatever team she played for, which I think was Boston. And then now we have Luke Kunin and his wife, Sophia Kunin, which when I saw the name, I just assumed it was his sister because I didn't know. But no, they're a couple.
Why is he kissing his sister?
No, I didn't.
That's when Nessa knew.
Whoops.
This
going on
family
here?
is really close.
Uh, oh no. So I don't know. It'll be cute to see. Well, if Kunin stays with the Sharks for a bit, like he's gonna be sporting. He'll probably be sporting some Minnesota gear to support her.
Nice.
That'll be fun to see.
On the topic of Kunin, not to jump ahead too much, but I'm excited because we lost him midway through our terrible season, but he was making
He
a
was the
bit of
difference maker.
yeah, he was making a
Yeah.
bit of a difference, and so when he dropped off, I was like, oh, that sucks. But
Yeah.
hopefully for this second season in Teal, he'll be able to make it through the whole season. And I mean, I just remember when we got him, I was trying to look up stats, like, should I be excited? And like, I didn't know too much what to expect, but like the direction that this team is headed, we're just picking up folks that are on expiring contracts or signing them to short contracts and just seeing which guys fit. And a lot of them are players that teams are kind of like, we need to move on for XYZ reasons, but we're just in a
Did
good.
we get him?
We got him from
Did
the
we get him
Preds.
from Nashville?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So, but I mean, he looked like he was bringing what we needed on this team. So, I'm excited to see him this season.
Yeah. Like I'm not super thrilled to see where the team goes this season, points wise, but I am excited to see how they play together because there's so many new faces. There's a couple of exciting names on the team now, right? Like I'm excited to see Duclair, like if he has a big season or like at least a decent season. Eklund is supposed to be making the team this year, and from what I've been hearing from all the writers, oh my god, the journalists, I just blanked there. He's looking really good. So yeah.
Where do you think he's going to play in the lineup?
Hard to say because he's a winger, right?
I think he's been playing wing, but ultimately I think the direction is center.
Really?
But I think, because I think unless he's like, like a Connor Bedard, like a center coming in to the league, I think regardless, they'll start out as a winger. But I think the direction is for him to become like, the center
A center
behind
eventually.
Hurdle or, whatever. But I feel like, so he makes the team, like I feel like it's going to happen. And I think he will play on wing because, like, I don't see where
We
you
have a lot of centers.
like. Okay, maybe if you put him on the third line center, like that would make more sense because I don't see you putting, like, Couture is eventually going to come back. Hurdle's going to play center. Those are 1 and 2 right there. So the only way that I see him playing higher up in the lineup is as a winger. So he's got to be a wing
Yeah.
to one of those guys.
Yeah, and I think maybe to start out, they might put him on the second or third line just because they'll probably try out Hurdle with Czech guys to see how that chemistry goes first. And then Duclair for sure will probably be on the second with Barabanov. Or maybe like switch Eklund in there somewhere. But yeah, I don't know. On a more serious note, what is this Nichushkin thing you want to talk about?
Well, he's back with the team, but they're not saying anything. And he's being quoted in like the media, the press conferences, being like he just wants to move on for. I'm like, okay, I'm not making any assumptions because nothing has come out. I almost feel like nothing will until like he's retired, because that's just how hockey is. But I side-eyed him being like, I just want to move on past it. Like, we all want to move on, but
Also,
you randomly exited the playoffs with,
escorted by police, no?
and supposedly the team and him, it was like a mutual agreement that it's best that he like remove himself from the playoffs and like being around the team and stuff like that. Great, good for you that you want to move on, but I guess my main concerns are with the woman who was intoxicated in your room.
Yeah. Maybe she hasn't moved on yet.
So
It's weird. It's so sketchy. I don't like it either. I was having this conversation, like a very brief conversation with Jude, because we were looking at players to draft for the fantasy. They were like, "Yeah, I really like Nichushkin, but ever since that sketchy stuff happened during the playoffs, I'm not really sure." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what to think. Like, he says he's innocent, but there's just." You just don't have a good feeling about it, you know? Like, she was super drugged up. I don't know. It's weird.
speaking of sketchy, so we haven't gotten to talk about this, but maybe that's a good thing, because news has been surprisingly swift in regards to Babcock. If you haven't already heard the news, apparently Babcock was having a team bonding thing a couple of weeks back, and that was talked about on the Barstool podcast. And so, as much as I don't prefer those guys, their podcast, and all that stuff, like, my initial thought behind that was like, former hockey players in hockey. I mean, Biz is on, what is it? TBS, TNT. I can't remember which one it is now. Like, he's a pretty high profile like figure in hockey. So for him and the other guys to be talking about this, like, I can't imagine they're just talking shit to talk shit. And then when you come around and you go ask the Blue Jackets, and then you take like Babcock's statement, which I'm not believing for 1 second. I will say I was a little like, I don't know how to feel about Jenner and Gaudreau's statements. I'm not saying that I felt that they were lying. I just felt that from their own perspective, how they felt about it, and then perhaps certain things stay in the locker room, as they do sometimes with this sport. No matter how genuine a player is, the culture stays with you. And so that's kind of like how I felt when it initially came out. How did you feel?
I was confused. Like, so when the news started breaking, it felt very scattered, right? Like, oh, something happened with Babcock again. Oh, he's being investigated. This is happening. Who was it? The what is their union called?
The NHLPA.
Yes, thank you. The NHLPA was coming in to meet with multiple of the Blue Jackets dudes, the front office dudes, and I had to ask you, like, what is the story here? Like, what did he do now, right? Finally, someone posted more details about how he was inviting some guys to his home for lunch, and then asking them to show him their phones, their photos on their phones, as a bonding thing. And in one instance, when he looked through one guy's phone, he sent him home without lunch. And so then people started speculating, oh, what if someone was in the closet, this and that? First of all, that's interesting because, hockey culture around gay players in itself is a whole problem. But it is a good point. Like, what did he see on that phone that made him react the way he did, and make that player feel like absolute shit, really? Like, who's going to want to play for a coach who's like, come to my house, have some lunch. Oh, I don't like what I just saw. Get out of here. Like, that put yourself in their shoes. Like, you're going to feel so bad after that. And you're not going to want to perform to your, like, highest level for this dude, right? So I think the best outcome was for him to get fired. Fine, whatever. I also wanted to address that the whole Patrick Marleau thing. As Sharks fans, yes, he did a lot for the franchise, the organization, but I don't think it's fair for him to speak out from outside of the situation and say, oh, he was such a good guy, he treated me so well with so much respect. What they're saying is a bunch of baloney, right? Like, you don't know because you weren't in that situation. And I don't think it's fair that people, really in society, but we'll stick to the sport, people in this league, former players, will talk highly of somebody and be like, I had nothing but great experiences with him. This is crazy. But you weren't there for this situation, so how do you know? Someone also brought up the point that when everything happened between Babcock and Marner, I think Marleau was there. And somehow he still thinks highly of him.
The fact that the Marleaus and Marner and Matthews, they really took to his time in Toronto, that they have this continued close bond, especially with like the Marleau kids. So, I mean, yeah, let's be honest, Patrick Marleau is not exactly the most like outspoken player on like these sort of things. He is kind of like the model hockey player where he just does his job and he does it well and he doesn't, cause trouble and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, he's a really great player. And, like as Sharks fans, it was a lot of fun to watch him play, but it is frustrating when he's kind of like a doormat. And it's not helpful, like regardless of if the Marleaus were, and I don't think that they were playing in Toronto when that stuff happened. I could be wrong. I mean, like, time frames and stuff are escaping me right now. But like, just the fact that they're close with Marner, just saying that is like kind of messed up. That like, this is a very like big incident that happened in Toronto where Marner was the trust is gone. Like, the coach asks you to do something and, if the coach asks you to do something and you're just thinking, okay, what, I guess maybe you don't want to like cause trouble. You're the new rookie in town and all that stuff. And to have him turn it around and potentially like turn all your teammates against you.
Yeah, that's so messed up. Like, how are you supposed to build a good locker room report like that? It makes no sense to me. That's what I'm saying. Like, what was he thinking? And then, because I just watched the Mike McKenna video before we started recording, it's so funny. Like, he's literally sitting there so casual, like,
here's the
let
team.
me tell you about let me tell you about this, what happened over here when he used to work for Vegas, and then he was
all over the place.
Okay, wait. So is my brain. So McKenna used to work for Vegas, and then Babcock was still coaching the Maple Leafs. And he was explaining that, there were rumors around Babcock being fired because the team wasn't doing well. And that was the night that Fleury made that crazy save, and then Babcock was like fired the next day. He was saying that like pretty much every player he's talked to does not like Babcock, and like they say he's such a terrible dude. He figured out that, and in his words, he called my Babcock manipulative because he likes to take the media's attention, and as soon as like he gets them on his side, then he can just like, you know, cruise by with whatever it is that he does. So he gets the benefit of the doubt, no matter what it is that he does. And now, because more people are being, more fans are being more vocal about certain things, you're starting to see a little bit of a shift in hockey. Just a little bit. Because I still don't think that he should have got another try in this league. I don't know. But here we are. But at least they handled it pretty quickly. So, baby steps.
I remember I sent the tweet or whatever when the news came out that Babcock and the Jackets just decided that he needs to leave. And then he, like, I think there was like some apology statement or something that the team put out, or I can't remember exactly. It was the GM was apologizing to like the team and like the players, and I like sarcastically said like, well, what about the apology to like the fans that have to deal with this? Where's my apology for this bullshit?
For real, you're putting us through all this emotional ridiculousness, roller coasters. Anyways, enough about Babcock. I wanted to highlight. Oh wait, what's this? Oh no, I guess we have to do the bad before the good. So back about 10 days ago, this is the tweet. Apparently, okay, Slava Malamud, I'm so sorry if I butchered your name, on Twitter, tweeted, Tampa Bay Lightning's player Mikhail Sergachev has talked to Russian media and voiced support for Ivan Provorov, saying that, quote, cancel culture in America is worse than in Russia, unquote. In parentheses, where people are jailed for protesting the war, and that, quote, liberals and Democrats tried to suffocate, unquote, Russians. I think I literally laughed out loud when I read this tweet because it's so ridiculous. Okay, I want to hear your thoughts first before I piece all the words together in my head.
I mean, this guy just doesn't have a brain. I mean, that's real. Like, I just, like, I don't have the patience to, like, anytime I read somebody using cancel culture in this, like, in this perspective, I just immediately zone out.
It's so dumb. Like, they think they're making a point by using these buzzwords. Mm-hmm. Right? Liberals, Democrats, cancel culture, woke. What's another one?
Someone needs to turn off Fox News.
Okay, so it's really laughable because, first of all, this guy lives in Florida. Let's talk about cancel culture in Florida. No, we talked enough about that last week. But
I mean, if Sergachev thinks that cancel culture in America is affecting Ivan Provorov, I mean, the dude still has a fucking job.
yes.
So I think cancel culture is not working. Because isn't cancel culture like all this like a... I mean, pretty much if we were successful at cancel culture, we wouldn't have to deal with Provorov right now. But, you know, he's still here.
Explain to me how Ivan Provorov is being canceled in hockey with, like you said, one, he still has a job, and two, they canceled all of the special nights in the league because of him.
Maybe Sergachev is sad that he doesn't get to, I don't know, random night that now won't happen. Maybe he's sad about that.
But then he's complaining about the wrong canceling.
Maybe he's saying cancel culture was, yeah, maybe he's actually on our side because he's upset that the jerseys are now canceled.
Yeah.
He really enjoyed all those events and like
wearing the rainbows for hockey's
those
night.
those damn alphabet people have now ruined military night for me, because that would make so much sense for him to show up and not protest against that.
Yeah. On I think that last bit really frustrates me. Like it angers me more than anything, where he says liberals and Democrats try to suffocate Russians. Where I haven't heard of anyone in a political position doing anything to suffocate Russians, quote unquote. You're not being silenced. You're living here freely. I don't see any of your people being put into cages when you cross over and immigrate here. If you want to get political.
Like I said, dude doesn't have a brain.
Anyways, dude's
head is just hockey.
Too many hits to the head, I think. Oh boy. Okay, enough about him. What I wanted to highlight was that Zadorov, who is playing for the Flames this upcoming season, he spoke out against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Hockey News reported on this September 21st, so a few days ago. So Zadorov says, I understand the consequences for my motherland, where it's going to come out, and how they're going to react over there. But I think it's really important for people to know my point of view on that. And I think it's important for young guys, Russian players, to know it's okay to speak out. I just have a hope. Maybe it's a child hope, but I hope my words can change something in this world. I think it's important to speak. I'm definitely aware of the consequences I'm going to get. I probably can't go back home, he repeated himself. I know how it works over there. It's going to be big propaganda. TV channels are going to be talking about me and pushing the agenda, saying he's brainwashed by the West, that kind of thing. He'll say I'm watching CNN too much or something, but I don't. It's a clear view. You see bad and you see good things, and that's my opinion. So in not just hockey, but like in general, you don't see a lot of Russians speaking out about what's going on back in Russia and Ukraine with the war. So this is a big deal. Zadorov's like a younger dude. I don't know how old he is. I don't know if they put it in here. And basically he knows the privilege that he has, right? Being over here, not having to deal with the regime because he's living in the States. Cancel culture, huh? He's able to speak out, and he's trying to ignite some hope in some of the younger guys to speak out as well, because he knows that there's a bunch of them that feel the same way. And maybe they can't because they still have family in Russia and they're worried about what the regime's going to do to them over there, or they still want to go home and travel on the off season, and they have to be very careful about the things that they say to media and stuff. So he's made his peace with the fact that he's not going to be able to go back home until those people are out of office, government, dictatorship. Which, I mean, it's sad, but he's on the right side, you know. He said that he's pretty much cutting ties with his parents because they support the current regime, which you know, that sucks. But he seems to be like, at least he's happy here. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that.
He's my new favorite defenseman.
You didn't draft him in fantasy.
There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it, like, when I approach this topic, I try to be sensitive and understand the fact that I'm not Russian. I don't have no connections whatsoever that could really give me like an inside perspective. We know for certain that Russia invaded Ukraine, and that's not cool. And there's a YouTuber that I follow who's Russian, and she more or less fled with her husband and her kids, and to a certain extent, even though that she's left the country, she still has family there. And so things that she talked about on YouTube, it's like you can tell that she's like walking the fence, but trying not to be overly outspoken, but also make it known that they were not feeling safe. There's even take the perspective of the fact that the military is drafting all the men to fight this war, and families are concerned that they don't want their sons to just go out there and die. So for Zadorov to take this stance, I think it's like he's so brave to not only understand his privilege, but to understand that he's like, yeah, I'm not just gonna take this sitting down. I'm not gonna be like Sergachev and Ovechkin. I think Ovechkin, we're all pretty familiar with where he kind of stands with stuff. So, I mean, it's hard to root for some of these players, because especially ones that are outspoken in support of what Russia's doing, like absolutely, like I'm not rooting for them. But the ones like last season, I think there was like Kuzmenko, and then there was like another player in the Wild where, we talked a lot about, on one hand, players were opting out of Pride nights for their like religious reasons, but then there was also the other bit where they were doing it for, because it's illegal to be queer in Russia, and they were like passing laws to outlaw being queer and things like that. And so they were opting out of Pride night, and we weren't really sure, like, well, is that like a cop out, or like are these players like actually concerned that this means that this will mean something bad for them and like their family back home, when, like I just mentioned earlier, like Sergachev and military appreciation, which would be like odd if he like didn't opt out of something like that, because the US is like incredibly opposed to the war in Ukraine. Right. So how do we feel about Benning's comments in regards to being asked about Carlson?
Another kind of tweet that made me laugh because it's so true. Do you have the tweet pulled up?
No, I mean, pretty much he said, like, he knows the media likes talking about Carlson, but he feels like it's time to turn the page, which I 1,000% agree, because last season was that no one was talking about the Shark. They were just talking about Carlson, which I understand there was nothing to talk about in regards to the Sharks, but like, if we're already annoyed as fans, like, I can 1,000% see his perspective of like, I'm here. I'm a defenseman. Guys, like, I'm on the team too.
Yeah.
Why don't you ask us about how we're gonna, pick up the slack on defense and stop talking about the guy who's not here anymore?
Yeah. I mean, from a journalistic perspective, you can understand he had 100 points last season. He was basically the biggest name on the team. Like, you get it. But now that he's gone, it's like these guys want to start thinking about the upcoming season. He's not part of the team anymore. They're not going to be thinking about him on the team.
Yeah, they got to focus on their season. They can't be like, oh, well, 82 games without Carlson. I don't
know.
know.
It's me.
I don't know how I'm gonna make it to April.
I don't know how I played before I was on this team with him.
I don't even think it matters that I'm here.
Okay, I just want to say that Carlson leaving opened up a spot for Knyzhov to come back in.
This is true. So, what are your feelings on our defense?
I don't know if I've actually sat and looked at what the roster looks like right now, like who is going to be on the team. So, give me a minute. We have Benning, we have Knyzhov, Ferraro, Vlasic. Who are the other guys?
Wow.
I just blanked. Oh. That's it. That's all you need.
We have Pickles, Ferraro, Ruta, Shimmick, Benning,
Oh, yeah.
Knyzhov, Burrows, and McDonald.
McDonald. Okay, I wasn't sure if he was a defenseman or not. I'm not feeling super great. I'm excited for Knyzhov to come back because we really liked him before he got injured. He was making some really big progress. But I need Ferraro to step up a bit. Vlasic made improvements last season. I'm hoping he can build on that. But
I mean,
don't have high
Vlasic's
hopes.
going to be an anchor. Like, we know that he is good on the defensive side. Like, this team is crap, but we know that he has the capability to, you know, once he gets his game back, I'm not worried about Vlasic. Like you, I want Ferraro to step up his game. I know that he wants to. I know he wasn't particularly happy last season, but homie's back on YouTube, so he's got the good vibes. I think he's coming in and he is determined to shine. So I am rooting for him. I'm optimistic that Ferraro will find the next level in his game. I'm interested to know more about Ruta, mostly because he's a new pickup.
You mean Stanley Cup champion, Ruta? 2-time Stanley Cup champion?
So I guess we can applaud that he has experience in that. We're not going to the playoffs, so hopefully he can bring something to the regular season.
But that means we have 2 Stanley Cup champions on the team now. I'm just saying.
But
that
we've
has to count for
always had
something, right?
Stanley Cup champions on our team. That has never really helped us too much. So, but you know,
I'm trying to look on the bright side
I'm
here.
excited. I am too. I'm saying I'm interested in seeing his game and who is he going to get paired up with? Let's see. He plays left and right, so he could be either. I would love to see Ferraro on the top pair. I think he has the potential. He just needs to find it. Because other than that, I don't know who would go on the first line. Like, maybe Benning. Like, I'm a fan of Benning. I know last season there was a lot of early thoughts. But
Haters.
I kind of took those early thoughts of like, okay, settle down, guys. Like, the guy's been here like for 2 seconds. There's
Right.
a whole new system he has to learn. This team is crap. Like, give the guy a minute.
Or a whole season.
But I think somebody asked Quinn what his thoughts were on how the power play is going to look, because like, I don't know who would be the
Quarterback it?
defenseman on the power play. Like, as hopeful as I want to be that Ferraro could rise to the occasion, I don't
You need to see it to
that's-
believe it.
Yeah, like homie's really gonna have to show it to me. But I think Quinn said that he was up to exploring it being like a full 5-forward power play unit, which
Oh, interesting.
it's been
I don't
a
think I've-
long time since we've I don't even remember. Yeah, I don't even remember when was the last time something like that happened, at least for the Sharks. So, I mean, I'm more optimistic about our forwards than I am our defense in terms of who could help out with that.
Yeah. But locker room vibes seem great, so
The guys are
it's
having
not
fun, so I'm
that's
excited
it.
for them. I'm excited for them.
I'm more excited for the prospects coming up that we won't be able to see till the next couple of years here, so
I have to keep being reminded that we have Blackwood on our team.
oh, I forgot about him.
Yeah, every time like there's a picture or there's like some roster lineup, I'm like, oh yeah, we got that guy.
Same with Hoffman.
Yeah,
Like I'll see him on a post, I was like, oh yeah, he's on the team now.
I'm sadly more familiar that we got him than Blackwood. Whatever. I don't know if I can root for that guy, but it's fine.
I will root for the team, not that specific player. If he scores, great. If it helps us win, great. If not, whatever. Okay. This morning, we finally did our fantasy draft. It was my very first time. And I had a little panicky moment. So, last night I did 2 mock drafts to prepare. And I was feeling very confident. One of them was funny because it was like me and another dude and then a whole bunch of bots. So it was going quick.
Wow.
I was like, oh God. And both times I drafted a pretty decent team I was happy with. So this morning, I was talking to Jude about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling more comfortable. Like, I think I got this. I was on Discord chatting with them on the side the whole time. And then the draft finally starts, and it's our turn to pick, and it wasn't letting me. It said co-managers aren't allowed to draft players. I was like, what am I gonna do what if Jude can't get on this? Like, they don't have service, they're on the road right now. Like, what is gonna happen right now? So I was like, Jude, I can't draft anything. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, it's not letting me. So thankfully they were able to get enough service to do all the drafting things, and we were just like talking on the side, and they were telling me how because they were on the road with some friends in the car, they had to like plug their phone in to the things for it to charge. And so like their friends kept hearing all of the drafting things and stuff, and they were just making fun of them. And I was like, don't make fun of us, this is stressful, this is so serious.
Is serious, okay?
No, but it was a lot of fun once we finally got into the groove of things, because I was like, okay, who are we drafting next, who's next on our list, and we're comparing like who's drafting who. It went faster than I thought it would, because you put 2 minutes for us because there's like half of us are beginners. Mm-hmm. But I think most of us came in pretty prepared, unlike Elena. Oh, she's so funny. She's still got a decent team though. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty happy with ours. I just need to come up with a catchy name or something. How are you feeling about yours? I looked at yours. Yours looks good.
Well, let me start out by saying the first tweet I saw when I woke up this morning in like my half sleepy phase was that Mika got injured during scrimmage, and then my anxiety like went through the roof. And I was just like, no, what does that mean? And I'm like scrolling through Twitter being like, he's okay, right? He's okay. And I was just like, what do I do? Because I was doing like some mock drafts throughout the week to kind of like I was putting myself in like the different positions in like the lineup to get a feel of like, well, okay, because there's I want to say every position in the draft is good. It's just a matter of how you approach it. Like, yes, if you get the first pick, like in this day and age, it's a no-brainer. You should go for McDavid. Like, like, unless you have a huge grudge against McDavid and you're like, you hate the Oilers, like, I don't like Vegas. I still had Pietrangelo on my team like
Oh,
a
we
year
drafted
ago.
him.
I had Pacioretty my first season. Like, it felt gross, but you know, like, they get
They put up
points.
points.
They get
Yeah.
points, you know? So I almost drafted a Knights player, but things just kind of like went in the way that they did. So, but you know, so yeah, so I was like freaking out, and then I wasn't sure. Like, obviously, my anxiety was just like, worst case scenario, he's out for the whole season, and if you draft him in like the third or fourth round, that's such a waste. And like, my brain was just like not my best friend this morning. And then I was like, oh, I need to like get water, I need to prep for this draft and like all this stuff. So it's like, by the time it all happened, like, I was pretty happy that I got the second overall pick, because I've never got to have Leon Draisaitl. I'm like, that'll be fun. Like, I'm excited to draft Leon Draisaitl. So I am sad that I only have Adam Fox on my team. I'm a little sad about that. I didn't get, like, yes, I passed up on Mika. I was talking to Elena on Discord earlier that I just had a strategy, and like throughout the mock drafts, I knew that the only player that I was really wanting to pick for like favorites was Mika. But I was running into a problem where to pick him in the ranking, like, he's gonna go like definitely like no further. He's not gonna drop any further than like maybe the first pick in the fourth round. So I have to decide how much I want to draft Mika, because he's a center, and I'm just like, you saw later in the draft as like picks were starting to get slimmer. There's a shit ton of centers. Like, there was like Dylan Larkin was not picked up for like how many rounds, and he's like he plays on like the top line for Detroit. I mean, granted, Detroit is maybe not going to do as well this year, so obviously you would go with a center that's like on a team that like is going to do a little bit better. But he was still a really high draft pick. I think he was like in the 30s or 40s, and he was still there by like far later than he ever should have been. So it's like, if you're going in with a strategy, that was like where my head was. I was like, I shouldn't pick Mika right now, because there's so many goddamn centers that if I wait and he's not there after the third round, it's not like my team is gonna suck. But what will suck is if I can't pick a goalie till like a late fourth round pick. Yeah. So that's why I was like, no, I've got to pick Connor Hellebuck. Sorry, Mika. and that was the round that Elena got Mika, late in the third round. Overall, I think I got mostly the players that in my previous mock drafts I did select. I'm a little unsure about David Perron. Like, I wanted to pick somebody that was going to be dual position, and he was like one of the only ones left. So I was like, sure. Like, if I don't like you later, I'll just you'll be the guy that I drop. But overall, yeah, I'm okay. I'm kind of meh about my goalies. I wish I could have gotten like an Onger or a Saros or Shesterkin, but I got Hellebuck, Jari, and Gustafsson. So, like, they're good. They're good goalies, but they're not like. They're not on my like a top star. 10. They're not on my top 10 goalie list of goalies that I root for. So I'm just kind of like, they're fine.
For our first pick, we got third overall pick. So we were discussing like who do we want to take, because Pasta is always really consistent, puts up points, But I had made a deal with Chrissy that I wouldn't draft him, and I was like, I have to honor this.
I make no promises in fantasy.
She's gonna bug me. I told her because she got 8th overall pick, I think, 8th or 9th. I think she was 9th because she was almost last. And I was like, oh, I got 3rd. Would you be mad if I got Pasta? She's like, yes, because we shook on it. And I was like, okay. But when I started talking to Jude, they didn't even bring up Pasternak. So it was between Jack Hughes and Jason Robertson, right? And I was like, that's tough because I like both of them. We know that, Jack has proved himself last season. You know that he's probably going to have another really good season this year. Robertson, like, how can you not want Robertson?
I am sad I don't have Robertson.
Yeah. Ultimately, we ended up with Jack Hughes because, Jude is a Devils fan. I'm not mad about it. But, yeah, Nate ended up getting Robo. We also ended up with Fantilli, which was a risk, but we're kind of hoping to see what he does this season. And the one player I really, really wanted was Makar, and we were able to get him. I know he's injured right now, but he's day-to-day. He's going to be fine. He's going to have a great season. I have to manifest it.
Yeah, I was right next to you guys in the draft order.
Uh-huh.
And there were a couple of times where I was like, dang it, or like, oh, interesting pick. One of them being Makar, because I thought like, oh, am I actually going to get him? Because like in my mock drafts, it was like I like took a chance in like the first round and decided, you know what, like I think I was a late pick, and I was like, you know what, I'll just pick ahead and I'll get Makar. I was like, oh man, when you guys picked up Makar, because I was gonna pick him up in the second round and you guys had the pick before me. But then I was surprised you guys didn't draft Dougie Hamilton, and he was there for much later than he should have been, and I was like, is no one seeing this gem right now? Like, am I the only one in the cave?
Did you pick him up?
I did. Like
okay.
I said, like I picked him up in the 5th round. I was like, are you insane? I even went with Marchand first, thinking like, you know what? I think I'll do Jude a favor. Maybe they pick someone and they were like really hoping to get Dougie. I'll leave Dougie for them, and then you guys didn't pick him.
I don't remember. I think our strategy was more so kind of evening out the positions on what to draft, and we wanted to get a couple more forwards. And I think when we were getting ready to start drafting another defenseman, he was already gone. Like, you had already picked him up, so he was on our list. I just I don't remember exactly how it played out though, because we were like, well, who's gonna be the next best? Like, what position do we focus on next? I think at that point we needed to draft a goalie. We hadn't drafted a goalie yet, so we were like, well, Swayman is on the board, let's grab him.
What round did you pick your first goalie? Because I picked Connor Hellebuck in the 3rd round.
I got him in the 4th.
Okay.
Yeah, that was our first goalie.
Yeah, my thing was because my first season playing fantasy, I don't think I picked up a goalie till like the 5th round, because it just didn't because I was so focused on like, oh, all the forwards and like the good defensemen, obviously you should like go get them and things like that. Didn't even think like until far too late. I think my first pick that year was Samsonov when he was still with the Capitals, and that was a terrible season for the Capitals. Him and Vanacek just could, like, granted the team was shit, but both of them were taking turns being shit. And I was just like, this is awful. And that was a season where it was a league of 16. So I pretty much was just like stuck with who I had. So next season I was like, I am not making that mistake. I am drafting a goalie early, at least one that's going to be like a bona fide starter.
Yeah. Okay, so I just checked. I think we were planning to get Dougie Hamilton 5th, but because you were before us, you picked him up first, so we ended up getting Darlene. So we were like
Not a
in the
bad
same.
choice. Darlene's probably going to be on the first power play unit for the Sabres.
Oh, Chrissy was telling me her strategy was to focus on the back end first. So she drafted Vasilevsky the first opportunity she got, and then as soon as she closed out of the drafting, like when we were all done, she got a notification that he got injured during practice. She's like, "Great."
That is going to be the story from now. Well, from the start. Well, yeah, now, as I remember that Mika's injured. From now until the fantasy season ends, it's like when your players go down, it's just like, no. And then you have to like freak out and like figure out who is going to put, and then you like comb through Twitter, like, I need updates. Are you okay?
Oh God, this is gonna be equally as fun and stressful, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dream top pair, Adam Fox and Dougie Hamilton. An unlikely pair.
Well, I got Makar and Darlene top. I also got Petrangelo. I was considering getting Taves, but then I was like, Makar and Taves are literally a defensive pairing. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know how well that would go for fantasy. So, Chrissy ended up drafting him. We have a lot of the same favorites, so she got Pavelski before we could.
What was the thought process by skipping out on Nico Hischier? Because that was another one where I was like, I am surprised you guys are not picking him up.
We didn't want to focus on just drafting all of the Devils. Because he's like in the 40s, I think. Like, he's a really good, for fantasy, he's a really high center. Yeah, I think it was because we had...
Yeah, he's 47. And I picked him up in the 12th round. I was just like, yeah, what is going on? Why is no one picking him? Like, I don't remember. This was towards the end where I was like, okay, I should pick up an extra this and that and stuff like that.
I don't remember what happened there.
I'm like, is everyone just like completely like maxed out on centers right now that no one's picking him? Because I was incredibly shocked that I'm like, I felt like if I pass him up, it's gonna be dumb. like I didn't necessarily want to pick up another center, but I was just like, I feel like it's gonna be dumb if I don't.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It was really hard trying to choose if we should get the next available like top player or fill in the roster spots that we needed. And so that's basically how our conversations are going. Oh, we still need this position. Should we do this? So that's probably why
if you've got way too many of just like one position, like, yeah, obviously you shouldn't. Like, I wasn't really checking who folks drafted, but that was just like what was going through my mind. I was just like, I would have expected him to get picked up just in general. And then more so, I was like, when are Nessa and Jude going to draft Nico?
I don't know. It was a little stressful because at one point Jude had really bad service and I'm like trying to ask questions. It's like, our turn is coming up, like, what's going on? So we were just like, just get this one. I'm like, okay. Oh, yeah, it was an experience.
I'm looking forward to like Drake Batherson as somebody that I was like,
we were gonna draft him and you got him just before us again.
Yeah. He's one that I was drafting several times during my mock draft. I'm like, I think he'll be a good draft. I think I'm gonna add him to my list. Natchez was one that I absolutely loved having last season. That's why I picked him up. I am surprised that I would have expected him to be higher in the rankings. I'm curious to see.
You're doing like very unintentional ASMR chewing those Swedish fish.
I'm interested to see because Tristan Jarry and Chris Letang were so far down in the rankings that I was not sure if I was making a dumb decision to pick them up. But granted, I think Jarry was the last goalie that I picked up, and then Letang was the second to last defenseman that I picked up. So I was just like, well, they're still here. So I feel like if it ends up being a bad choice, well, I didn't pick them early. Like,
yeah. I was looking, okay, so I'm really scared of Naj's team because they're stacked. And Nate picked up a lot of good players too. Like
okay,
he ended up. I was laughing when I was looking through it because I was like, "Ah, yeah, a lot of Dallas players."
So, okay, I'm looking at Naj's team. Obviously, McDavid, like, you're gonna have no problems on power play, goals, assists, shots. Like, all those categories are good. In all of my mock drafts, people were staying away from Bedard.
I know, I saw
think
that too.
I think he wasn't picked up, like, either he wasn't picked up at all or he was picked up, like, really, really late. He really wasn't, like, on my radar. I think it'll be interesting to see, like, how he does in fantasy. I'm a little, like, if it were points only, I wouldn't be as skeptical, but because we're playing categories, like, I don't see him being beneficial in the hits category.
Yeah.
Or in penalty minutes. So, like, Chicago is going to be an interesting team from tanking all last season to now they could potentially, like, be a halfway decent team. Like, I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs, but obviously they got the first overall generational player. So, let's see. I was about to say, like, I thought you guys got Jack Hughes, and then I'm looking at the Luke Hughes with the Jack Hughes picture.
Yeah. Oh, I noticed that, I think, last night during my mock draft. I was like, what? That's not Luke.
I am interested to see how Vegas handles their goaltending, because in the NHL Fantasy podcast, they were talking about this. And they were talking about the fact that, prior to Hill going to Vegas, he was, like, not much to talk about. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously he goes to Vegas, and then, all their goalie injuries, and then, he ends up taking the starter position and then just, like, stands on his head throughout all the playoffs. But Thompson is going to be playing this season. Who knows what happened with why does his name escape me? The other goaltender that they had.
Leonard.
Yeah, Robin Leonard. So, I mean, Logan Thompson was the goaltender that they were, like, singing praises about this season before. So, I decided to stay away from the Vegas goalies because I'm like,
they always get injured.
With 50-50, I'm going to choose the wrong one. And, like, I don't feel confident about Aiden Hill.
Yeah, me neither.
And I don't want Vegas to make me, like, second guess myself.
Yeah. Jude was bringing Aiden Hill's name up a lot. And I was like, I mean, yeah, he played well in the playoffs, but, like, he was on the Sharks and he wasn't very good. Like, I don't feel confident drafting this guy.
Like, in terms of wins, obviously for the Golden Knights, they're gonna win. But it could really go either way with Thompson or Hill. It's whoever is, like, out of the gate, like, takes the spot. or they could potentially go 50-50. Who knows? It's just such a grab bag that I was like, eh. I'm sure Elena is very sad that Naj has Hallmark.
She has 2 of her favorites. She's fine. He was funny because Chrissy was like, if Bo Horvat's still there when it's my turn, I'm going to get him next. And then Nate picked him up.
He was a late, like, people waited on him. That was another one where I was like, are people just, like, concerned? I was concerned. I don't know how he's going to do on the Islanders.
I think I already had 2 centers by then. And then plus, let me see, we got Mercer, who plays center and right wing. So we were like, we don't need another center. So we skipped. Yeah, it was weird. This one was interesting. Like, the way people were drafting, and then our strategy was kind of like all over the place. It wasn't like exactly how we had planned it, you know? I don't know. I still had fun though. We'll see how the season goes.
I mean, given how small the league is, I mean, everybody got a chance to get really good players. So it's really just going to come down to every week you have to make choices. Like, not all these guys, even if they're playing that day, not all of them are going to be able to play for your team. You're going to have to choose who do you roster that day. And then just keeping up with, if one player goes down, well, what do you do in that scenario? Put them in an IR slot, pick up another player. What if you're not winning a certain category? How do you strategize the rest of your week to make up to win more categories? So, but everyone's going to have an opportunity to have players that are going to allow them to, like, be competitive. It's just going to be a matter of how you go about it.
Yeah. I think it's going to be fun. Like, Chrissy made a Discord specifically to join our chat, because I was like, just make one so you can be a part of the camaraderie. Like, she saw how much fun we were having during the draft, just talking smack to each other, because she kept drafting Guy's, like, all of Guy's listed draft, like, players, and he kept getting mad. And so when he was like, who took Yotzi? I was like, well, she does, but she doesn't have a Discord. And so she was like, I think I'm gonna make one, because she likes to talk smack all the time. So
I need to look at who he drafted. Oh, he's having some first world left winger problems. He's got Brady Tkachuk, Kirill Kaprizov, Ovechkin, Kyle Connor, like, first world left wing problems.
Why would you go for all left wings first? It's just,
I mean, they're all good players, but it's like now you're stuck with just like a single position player that's really good. So like every week, what if they're all playing? Now you decide who's gonna play the best today.
Yeah, that's funny. He was like, I need defensemen. You should have drafted better.
Ew, Patrick Kane. Boo.
Boo. And Carter Hart.
I think that's all the thoughts I have on the draft. I'm happy with my team.
Me too.
I think I did well.
I could see us possibly making a trade later down the line for some. I don't know if we got any players that actually are known for hitting, and I'm just not realizing. So we might have to make a change there. But as of right now, I'm happy with who we got.
Yes, I'm happy with Bad Marchand.
I need to come up with a fun name. I told Chrissy, so she picked her name before the draft, and she kept it, and she was able to draft Barzal. And I told her, you should have drafted, like, Wall or something, so you could keep the name, but it would make more sense. Barzal to the wall.
If I had drafted Mika, I was gonna name my team Mika Palooza. But
that's cute.
Nope.
It wasn't meant to be.
Didn't draft Mika. Maybe in my next league. Maybe I
Good
will
luck.
draft Mika. All right.
That's
Well,
it.
I'm happy that everybody seemed to have a good time in fantasy, and that sucks that you prepped and then fantasy was like denied. I
Rude.
didn't have that problem with because I'm the one who created the team, and then Elena co-managed, and I was the one drafting, so I didn't even notice that co-managers can't draft.
Well, now we know. That's okay. This
Well,
is a
maybe
team
next
sport.
season you won't have to worry about that anyway.
Next season, I'll probably feel more confident. So, plus I have been going through a lot, so I didn't want to put so much effort into this because I get borderline obsessed with things, and so I didn't want to put too much effort into that when I have so much going on. So,
All right. So that's it for us this week.
thanks for joining us.
As always, I'm your host, Jay.
And I'm Nessa. Until next time. Oh, subscribe and like and stuff, please. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.